Sammy Davis Jr. once stood at the pinnacle of fame, side by side with Frank Sinatra, raising glasses with the most powerful figures in America, and hailed as a symbol who shattered racial barriers. Night after night, the spotlight bathed him in glory in Las Vegas, followed by all-night parties in his Hollywood Hills mansion, handshakes, and endless applause. But then, mysteriously, the lights dimmed and never came back on. When Sammy passed away, he left behind an abandoned mansion, crushing debts, and a family fractured by bitter disputes over his estate. The walls that once echoed with laughter and triumph now sat heavy with dust and silence. And in those final days, treasured possessions and crucial wills mysteriously vanished without a trace. What really happened inside that mansion? How could a man who once earned over $50 million leave this world in silence, with empty hands and a broken heart? Behind those worn-out doors, how many secrets still remain untold? Join us as we uncover the shocking truths and the heartbreaking tragedies hidden within the life of Sammy Davis Jr. And all the tangled mysteries of this legendary black icon seem to have begun with one seemingly perfect dream: the mansion atop Evanview Drive. On a golden afternoon in October 1955, sunlight poured over the rolling hills of Hollywood Hills. Along the winding curves of Evanview Drive, Sammy Davis Jr. paused before a villa with red-tiled roofs and graceful white walls. At just over 30 years old, he had already conquered America with his unmatched voice, dance, and magnetic charisma. The house, spanning over 5,400 square feet with 3 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, welcomed the full blaze of the California sun through its grand windows. It had once belonged to Hollywood icon Judy Garland, and now, with relentless determination, Sammy could finally call it home. Yet owning that villa meant overcoming much more than a signed contract. In the 1950s, America still wasn't ready to welcome a black man into the world of the elite. Unable to place the house under his own name, Sammy asked his close friend George Schlatter, then earning just a few $100s a week, to hold the title for him. A hurried signature, a trust needing no words, and a silent dream built upon sheer courage. The house quickly became legendary. The laughter of Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr., names that echoed across Hollywood, turned the villa into a sanctuary for endless parties, with jazz melodies spilling from the living room into the back garden. The small guest house tucked away near the yard, where James Dean once lived, remained untouched, a silent witness to nights lost in the dazzle of the stage lights. But Sammy didn't stop there. He also owned another villa in Hollywood Hills. Built in 1941 by John Elgin Wolfe in classic Art Deco style, it had once been the home of Judy Garland, Vincente Minnelli, and Wally Cox. With 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, a sparkling blue pool, fragrant orchards, a private cinema, and a balcony offering a panoramic view of Los Angeles, the house stood like a living painting at the heart of Hollywood. Yet these luxurious houses would become silent witnesses to Sammy's unfolding tragedies. After Sammy Davis Jr. passed away in May 1990, the Evanview Drive villa quietly shifted from a symbol of glamour to an abandoned shell amid the Hollywood Hills. Alta Weiss, his wife of 2 decades, was swallowed by debt. Unpaid taxes, funeral costs, and a mountain of legal fees made it impossible for her to hold on to the house. On a drizzly afternoon in October 1991, she signed the sale papers, letting go of the villa for far less than its true worth, as if she were selling off a weary soul, worn down by life. None of Sammy's adopted children had the means to inherit Evanview Drive. Each scattered their own way, lacking the resources to maintain a mansion that demanded a fortune simply to breathe. Alta Weiss, too, left Los Angeles, retreating to a rural town where she scraped by, carrying only the ashes of a bygone golden era. Abandoned for years, the villa shed its once splendid skin. The white walls yellowed under the relentless sun. Crystal chandeliers gathered silent dust, and velvet carpets rotted beneath cracked stairways. The once lavish garden, once alive with parties, now sprawled with gray weeds and thorny, withered roses. The small guest house where James Dean once stayed decayed too, its tiles broken, its wooden doors swinging like cries in the wind. Then, in 2016, Jason Oppenheim, a famous Hollywood real estate broker, decided to buy the villa. Over 2 years, he fully renovated the property, the old walls replaced with vast glass panes bathing the interior in sunlight, a floating staircase spiraling through the living room, a gleaming Miele kitchen under shimmering LED lights. The backyard gained a luxury fire pit and an artificial waterfall, crafting an outdoor space fit for a modern Hollywood dream. Only the small guest house was left untouched, a deliberate relic, a memory no hand dared erase. Yet, whispers still linger that during the renovations, Jason's team discovered a secret room hidden behind those aging walls. It was said to house the final treasures Sammy Davis Jr. had kept, fragments of a life never fully revealed. But instead of unveiling it, the room was quietly sealed behind new layers of brick, buried forever with its silent secrets. Today, the Evan View Drive Villa rents for $49,000 a month, a staggering price reserved for the ultra-wealthy who wish to taste the Hollywood dream for a few fleeting months. From the outside, it glistens like a piece of contemporary art. Yet if you stand quietly in the grand living room, where once Sammy's raspy laughter and warm jazz echoed, you might still feel an invisible weight, a bittersweet memory lingering between the beams and windows. The second villa in Hollywood Hills fared no better against time. Though listed for sale between $6 and $9 million, it remained empty for years. New tenants came and went, each unsettled by a strange chill that crept through the bricks and doors. These homes once lived on music, laughter, and clinking glasses. Now, only the howl of the wind fills their hollowed halls each night. They stand as beautiful, empty shells, just like Sammy Davis Jr. in his final years. A once blazing star no one managed to save. Yet behind all that glitz, the pristine white walls and endless parties, the first cracks in Sammy Davis Jr. S. heart had already begun to form. It was right here at the Evan View Drive mansion, under the soft golden glow of the chandeliers, that Sammy once dreamed of a love that would defy all barriers, a love that could have changed the course of his life forever. It was the story of Kim Novak and the first tragedy that carved scars into Sammy's destiny, scars that would never truly heal. On a chilly autumn evening in 1957, as Los Angeles sank into the first misty frost of the season, Sammy Davis Jr. met Kim Novak at a small private party nestled in the Hollywood Hills. She stood silently under the dim golden light, her white silk dress floating like mist in the air, her eyes filled with a sadness only those who knew loneliness could recognize. One glance, that was all it took. Sammy was pulled straight into a whirlwind of love without promises. They sought each other out in secret, two lost souls in a sprawling, indifferent city. Hidden meetings, hurried messages, stolen touches under the cover of night. But their love couldn't survive the storm that raged outside their fragile cocoon. Less than a month later, Harry Cohn, the ruthless head of Columbia Pictures, stepped in with a brutal ultimatum. End it with Kim, or risk not only losing your career, but your life. The mafia was brought in. And so, on a cold, dark night in Las Vegas, Sammy hastily married Lori White, a staged marriage sealed by a silent $10,000 check, without flowers, without music, wrapping up his shattered love in a cold legal contract. On their wedding night, in a hotel room heavy with silence, Sammy sat alone before a cold, loaded gun. One slight movement, one lost moment, and it would have all ended there. But somehow, fate clung to him, pulling him back from the edge. By 1960, Sammy found a new light in May Britt, the Swedish actress with eyes as calm as a June lake. They married, building a family with their daughter Tracy, and later adopting two boys, Mark and Jeff. For a time, it seemed happiness might finally stay. But America in those years, even under the dazzling glow of stage lights, was not ready to embrace a multiracial family. When President Kennedy coldly removed Sammy from the list of inaugural performers simply because he had dared to marry a white woman, it was a silent knife across his pride. One relentless tour after another, lonely hotel nights, and growing distance slowly eroded their home. In 1968, under a misty morning sky, May Britt quietly packed her bags, leaving Sammy alone in a vast mansion full of cracks that could never be mended. In the years that followed, perhaps out of sheer survival, Sammy married Aldevice Gore, the fiery dancer who once lit up Las Vegas nights with him. Together, they adopted Manny, a late spark of hope for a fragile household. But like so many dreams in Sammy's life, this too would not endure. By the winter of 1990, as the cold winds whipped over Hollywood Hills, the Evan View Drive mansion grew strangely hollow. Day by day, Sammy weakened, his once indomitable body worn thin by illness. During those fading days, Aldevice Davis, once vowing forever by his side, changed. At her side, not only nurses, but another woman appeared frequently, tending to meals to his fading needs. That woman wasn't a stranger. She was once Sammy's old flame from his youth. Somewhere amid the long, silent nights within the mansion's sagging walls, Aldevice and the woman found each other again. Whispers suggest Aldevice didn't merely accept the bond, she welcomed it, perhaps as a way to fight the loneliness gnawing at her from within, perhaps fueled by old secret passions that had always flickered in the dark. As the stage lights dimmed, as the songs faded away, and as the debts outpaced love, Aldevice reached for another hand, right within the home that once echoed with the brightest nights of Sammy Davis Jr. Life. The red-tiled, white-walled mansion that once throbbed with jazz and laughter now only knew the sound of weary sighs and the hollow wind through open windows. And upstairs, in a cold, empty room, Sammy lay still, knowing in his final moments that he had lost it all: family, love, and the most beautiful memories he had ever made. When Sammy Davis Jr.'s life came to an end, it seemed that the silent conflicts within his family were only just beginning to surface. On a gloomy June morning in 1992, with the Los Angeles sky heavy and foreboding, Aldevice Davis, Sammy's fourth wife, walked quietly into a law office on Wilshire Boulevard. Dressed in a faded thin coat, she carried a thick folder in her hands, a lawsuit against John Climaco and Shirley Rhodes. They were the very people she had once entrusted with managing Sammy Davis Jr.'s estate, one his personal attorney, the other his longtime financial manager. Aldevice sat down, back straight, but eyes heavy with grief. Across the table, John Climaco sighed quietly, while Shirley Rhodes kept her head down, avoiding eye contact. In just a few short years, the $6 million life insurance payout, once thought to be a lifeline, had evaporated through shady investments and negligent management. Aldevice, who once basked in the spotlight, now sank into days of hardship, surviving off the pity of old friends and cold glasses of liquor, living adrift in the freezing hills of Poconos. But the peak of tragedy struck in April 2011. In a small office in Beverly Hills, Tracy Davis, Sammy's eldest daughter, signed away the rights to her father's life story to Rick Appling and Byron Allen. No family meeting, no heated discussions, just a swift stroke of a pen, severing forever the last fragile thread connecting the remnants of the Davis family. Word traveled quickly to the Poconos. Aldevice received the news on a misty afternoon, sitting alone by a frosted window. Manny, the youngest adopted son whom Sammy once hoped would carry on the family name, hurled his phone onto the couch, shouting in rage, "She sold Dad!" She sold the heart of this family. But Tracy remained silent. In her heart, she believed she was doing what was necessary to salvage the little legacy that remained. Meanwhile, Sammy's material legacy, every brick, every memory, drifted farther and farther away. The once glorious Evan View Drive mansion, home to countless all-night Rat Pack parties, was hastily sold, remodeled, and rented out for $49,000 a month, now just a soulless luxury listing. The second villa in Hollywood Hills, where Judy Garland once sang under sparkling chandeliers, changed hands too. The famed Judy Garland suite, once echoing with the laughter of legends, now reduced to a cold line in a real estate ad. In the summer of 1991, inside a small auction room on Beverly Hills Boulevard, the last of Sammy Davis Jr.'s personal belongings were put up for sale. His familiar dance shoes, the sapphire ring he wore on Las Vegas stages, a faded photo alongside Frank Sinatra, all were auctioned off with cold nods and the dry clatter of the auctioneer's gavel. The auction ended quickly, raising only a few $100,000, a mere drop in the ocean compared to the staggering $15 million debt Sammy left behind after disastrous investments in oil fields and DeLorean cars. In that moment, the dazzling light of a legend seemed hastily buried beneath stacks of unpaid bills and forgotten contracts. By March 2009, deep in the freezing mountains of Poconos, Altavice Davis, the woman who once held Sammy's hand through his brightest days, quietly breathed her last in a dilapidated rental home. Manny, the youngest adopted son the couple had brought into their family in 1989, silently inherited what little remained of their fractured estate, amid endless disputes that had never truly been resolved. Then in October 2018, Paramount Pictures officially announced a biopic project about Sammy Davis Jr. Once again, his name returned to the headlines, to the posters. As if Hollywood had suddenly remembered its long-forgotten debt to the artist who once shattered racial barriers and stood proudly under the spotlight. But on the day the project was unveiled, no members of the Davis family stood together. Only Sammy's name gleamed quietly on the poster like a lone star that had long since faded away. The rift between his wife and children had already added a bitter note to the final chapter of Sammy Davis Jr.'s life. But in truth, perhaps the seeds of tragedy had been sown long ago, back in the stormy beginnings of his childhood journey. On an early morning in 1925, in the bustling heart of Harlem, Sammy Davis Jr. let out his first cry into a world already brimming with barriers and prejudice. When he was just 3 years old, his parents divorced, and from that moment on, Sammy's childhood was spent roaming from town to town with his father, Sam Sr., and his uncle, Will Maston, as part of the Will Maston Trio. The tiny 3-year-old would stand on stage, learning his first dance steps from Howard M. Colbert Jr. and locking eyes for the first time with the legendary Bill Bojangles Robinson, eyes that would ignite a fire inside him. Amid the glowing theater lights and endless bus rides, a woman named Rosa B. quietly nurtured Sammy whenever he wasn't touring, shielding him from the brewing storms of racial hatred outside. In 1943, as the world was engulfed in the fires of war, Sammy enlisted in the Army at 18, believing that loyalty and service could earn him acceptance. But reality was far crueler. The young black soldier was beaten by his own comrades, had urine poured over him, and his face smeared with black paint. Sammy did not fight back with fists. Instead, he chose a stronger weapon, his talent. "If I can sing, if I can dance, if I can make them marvel," he told himself, "then they'll have to accept me." From then on, the determination to succeed became the compass guiding his life. After the war, Sammy reunited with the Will Maston Trio and soon blazed his own trail as a solo artist. With tireless feet, a voice that danced between jazz and soul, and an effortless charm, Sammy Davis Jr. rose to the top, eventually being hailed as the greatest entertainer in the world. Under the dazzling lights of Las Vegas, standing shoulder to shoulder with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, he became the beating heart of the Rat Pack, a name that made all of Hollywood bow their heads. But the glory came at a price. Sammy still had to sneak into clubs through back doors, avoiding the hostile stares of white audiences. Fate struck another cruel blow on a December night in 1954. As his deep blue Cadillac sped through a heavy fog near San Bernardino, California, a single moment of inattention sent the car crashing into a concrete divider. The screech of twisting metal tore through the night. Sammy's head slammed against the steering wheel, the windshield shattered into razor-sharp fragments. When they pulled him from the wreckage, his face was covered in blood, and his once dazzling left eye was beyond saving. At White Memorial Hospital, doctors recorded severe facial fractures, head trauma, and complete blindness in his left eye. Sammy Davis Jr., the entertainer who once commanded entire Vegas showrooms to their feet, would now live forever behind a cold, black eye patch. Yet, just months after the accident, he defied all odds and returned to the stage, his remaining eye burning with both pain and defiance. The world marveled at his resilience, giving him standing ovations for a comeback they deemed miraculous. But behind the velvet curtains, behind those radiant smiles, Sammy often drowned alone in liquor, cigarettes, and a quiet, gnawing despair few ever saw. Despite a life paved with hardships, Sammy never forgot to lift those around him. He bought a house, a car, and even hired a chauffeur for Rosa B., and generously supported friends and former companions who had struggled alongside him during his early years. In 1985, he founded the Sammy Davis Jr. National Liver Institute in Newark, New Jersey, pouring much of his fame and fortune into medical research for liver disease. Sammy wasn't just an artist, he was a quiet warrior against social injustice and human suffering. That same year, when his career was still ablaze, Sammy Davis Jr. proudly sponsored the creation of the Sammy Davis Jr. National Liver Institute in Newark, New Jersey. It wasn't just a medical institution, it was Sammy's way of giving back to the life that had once blessed him with spotlights and roaring applause. As he often said, "If I can use a little bit of this stardust to save lives, then that's the greatest honor of my life." He openly fought against illness, traveling tirelessly to raise funds and awareness, inspiring the public not just with his music, but with a heart so generous it seemed to echo in every word he spoke. That generosity, born from the burning memories of poverty in Harlem, helped forge Sammy Davis Jr. into not just an icon of entertainment, but a legend in the hearts of those who crossed his path. But life doesn't always reward an open heart. Few knew that amid the glittering lights of late 1970s, Las Vegas, when Sammy Davis Jr. still reigned as an undisputed king, the seeds of financial disaster were already being sown. Each night, he earned up to $185,000, a staggering sum for the era. Believing the spotlight would never fade, he spent lavishly, buying homes, collecting luxury cars, pouring money into oil wells in Texas, and investing heavily in the hyped DeLorean car company. But life is no stage, and when oil prices plummeted and DeLorean collapsed, the IRS debts quietly began to snowball, as if invisible winds were stacking burdens onto his back. In August 1989, during a routine medical check, Sammy Davis Jr. received devastating news. Throat cancer, the price of smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day. Doctors advised removing his larynx to save his life. But for Sammy, his voice wasn't just sound, it was his soul. He chose a risky path: radiation therapy, enduring months of exhaustion, hair loss, sores, and difficulty eating, just to hold on to his voice a little longer. Yet by early 1990, the cancer returned with a vengeance. This time, there was no choice. Sammy underwent surgery, and when he awoke, the artist who once electrified America's grandest stages was left voiceless. A man who could once command a room with a glance, a step, a note, was now reduced to shallow breaths and trembling hands, clutching memories that slipped through his fingers. Meanwhile, a lawyer delivered a grim verdict that needed no judge. Total tax and financial debt had ballooned to $15 million. Sammy's eyes darkened, and the hand that once gripped the microphone with certainty now shook like a brittle leaf. No more dazzling parties, no more roaring ovations, only hospital bills, debt collectors' letters, and cold, empty rooms. In a desperate final effort to salvage something, a hurried auction was organized in 1991. His iconic tap shoes sold for $111,000. Other stage memorabilia raised another $440,000. Mere drops in a sea of overwhelming debt. On May 16, 1990, inside a quiet Beverly Hills home, Sammy Davis Jr. drew his final breath at the age of 64. In his last moments, he squeezed his daughter Tracy's hand 3 times. Outside the living room window, the afternoon sun slipped gently through velvet curtains, quietly closing the curtain on a legend. 3 days later, in an unprecedented gesture, Las Vegas, the city that never sleeps, dimmed its neon lights for 10 full minutes. The city of endless lights bowed its head to honor the little man who had sown its soul into every shimmering bulb. But the tragedy didn't end there. In those final days, as Sammy lay weak and dying, So-called friends crept into his home, stealing his clothes, rings, watches, and his most cherished keepsakes. What remained was a hollow shell of Sammy Davis Jr., whispering painfully to his wife, "They took everything. All that's left is my name." Sammy Davis Jr. closed his life quietly in May 1990, but the echoes of his spirit have never truly faded. From a 3-year-old boy dancing on worn-out wooden stages with the Will Maston Trio to one of the greatest stars of the Rat Pack, Davis shattered the invisible walls of race, overcame brutal accidents, and fought back against a world all too eager to dismiss him. At the height of his fame, he could earn $185,000 in a single night in Las Vegas. Over the course of his career, Davis brought in more than $50 million, an astronomical figure for his time. He shared stages and headlines with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, commanding the grandest rooms in America with nothing more than a shoulder roll and a gleam in his eye. Across a career spanning nearly 6 decades, Sammy Davis Jr. released over 50 studio albums, starred in more than 20 films, and performed in countless Broadway productions. Hits like The Candy Man didn't just top the Billboard Hot 100, they carved his name into the hearts of millions. He didn't just open doors for future black artists like Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston. He fundamentally changed how a society judged talent and human worth. But what truly set Sammy apart wasn't just his voice, his dance, or his iconic performances. It was his boundless generosity, giving away much of his fortune to support family, friends, and health causes battling injustice, even as his own debts closed in like a vice. Especially, there was a strange secret lingering atop Evanview Drive, the famed mansion where jazz once roared and laughter echoed till sunrise. Near the end of his life, Sammy, frail and whispering from his sickbed, told close family about a secret room hidden within the mansion walls, a place where he had hidden his most precious mementos. Yet, when the house was later renovated, nothing remained but polished glass and new drywall. But in the hearts of those who loved him, that secret room still lives on, a symbol of memories never truly erased. And so, even though he lost everything, fortune, fame, even his voice, Sammy Davis Jr. left behind something no debt, no betrayal could steal: a legacy of resilience, of dazzling talent, and of a heart too vast to measure. What do you think about the life of Sammy Davis Jr.? Do you believe the secret room really existed, or was it simply a part of forgotten memories? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you were moved by this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And join us as we uncover more grand and tragic journeys from the golden age of Hollywood.